On the screen is a decision-making model that can be used in a kindergarten and first grade school. So you administer your screening probe 3 times a year to all students. Students who score at or above the benchmark would continue to receive Tier 1 instruction and enrichment activities. Students are below benchmark or way below benchmark, sometimes also called some risk and at risk. You would need to give some more diagnostic assessments to decide if their phonics and spelling skills are intact. If their phonics and spelling skills are intact, but they're slow in their response, then intervention can focus on fluency. If they're inaccurate in their phonics and spelling responses, then you can focus on phonics, spelling, word recognition accuracy. You could then also evaluate phonological skills in greater depth if needed by looking at the student's ability to identify syllables, onset rhymes, phoneme segmentation tasks, phoneme blending tasks, and if they come up as area of weakness, intervention can focus on phonological skills. However, you also want to make sure that you do not miss any students who are good decoders but may have difficulties with language production. So we need to check their comprehension, their vocabulary, their sentence comprehension, their topic knowledge, and higher level reasoning skills.
Okay, since the National Reading Panel completed its work in 2000, volumes have been written about the 5 essential components of reading instruction. Phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension are the first 5 they have recognized. We've added writing, background knowledge, and motivation because it is so important to comprehension skills. Evaluations should assess the big 5 areas of reading. We know learning to teach reading, language, and writing is a complex undertaking. At this point, I'd like to share this quote by Dolch, E.W. "Failure to learn to read as others do is a major catastrophe in a child's life." This is from Dolch, E.W., 1939, a manual for remedial reading, Champaign, Illinois, Garrett Press. Now, I would like to begin by briefly discussing the big 5 areas for clarification. Okay, first it is important to explain and understand just what phonemic awareness or phonological awareness is. It is about the student knowing that spoken language is composed of sounds. S, at, can be blended to say sat. Having the ability to manipulate and integrate language sounds. For example, if I ask you to say book and ask you to repeat, say book, I need you to do this, so please repeat it to yourself while you're listening to this. Now change the b to t, and you should be able to tell me the correct word. Took, that's right. Another example, say book, now change to I, and you should be able to tell me bike, that's correct. Say peanut. Now say peanut without the nut. P would be correct. What does ch, e, z say? Cheese would be correct. Say rock. Tell me another word that begins and ends like rock. Student would have to give another word such as rack. Tell me the second sound in track. This is where they have to think about those words and isolate the sound. The second sound in track would be r. Give me the third sound in music. This third sound would be z. And then we can give the students nonsense words. So we can put the phonemes in isolation. S, I, g, k, a. and the student would say zig cat. And again, taking a whole word and just breaking it down as in bag, b, at, g. It's really important for teachers to know the sequence of skill development in this area. First, discriminating rhymes, producing rhymes, isolating initial and final sounds, blending sounds, segmenting sounds, and then manipulating the sounds by deleting, substituting, or transposing. But it's very clear for a while that the phonemic awareness became a buzzword in the classrooms, and I also see it when I work with teachers. It's an area that they have a difficult time connecting to the individual child, and they just do activities that sometimes are not even related to the words they're going to be working with. So it's very, very important to get a handle on where the weaknesses are in students, because not all students have the same weaknesses in phonological awareness. Often I see students will compensate in one area, such as blending, if they have a difficult time synthesizing sounds to form whole words. They may be able to blend, but they may not be able to analyze and break down where the sounds are. So many times a learning disability, if there is an auditory or phonological awareness area that is weak, it could be missed if you're not looking at all the areas. So in terms of the phonological development, kindergarten through first grade, we expect to really work on the rhyming, blending and segmenting compound words and multisyllabic words. First and second grade, segmenting and blending phonemes and manipulating the initial, final, and then finally the middle sound. That middle sound is a little more complicated for the students, so you want to work from the beginning first, the ending, and then go to the middle sounds. Oral language, vocabulary, and comprehension, another area to really look at closely. Another quote I would like to share: every child would read if it were in his power to do so. Betts, 1936, page 5, The Prevention and Correction of Reading Difficulties, Evanston, Illinois, Rowe, Peterson, and Company. We know comprehension is the goal of reading. We also know reading comprehension is a complex task and involves the ability to derive meaning from text. The process is active, and it does require the student to connect background knowledge, vocabulary, word recognition, fluency, as well as demonstrating the ability to make inferences and to integrate information as it is being read. Fluent reading for comprehension depends on the ability to recognize and attach meaning to individual words. We can define vocabulary as the student's knowledge of and memory for word meanings. This is demonstrated not only through reading and writing, but also in oral language, listening, and speaking. One needs to distinguish from the words that students name or read in print that in the beginning phases of reading, teachers must understand that students may know the meanings of many more words than they can read. However, in many cases, once students can decode, they may read many words that they lack the meaning of. Listening comprehension requires good language abilities, vocabulary, syntax, background knowledge, and verbal reasoning. To connect personal context to sentence context in order to make meaning and allow students to comprehend a variety of text structures. Students whose language skills are deficit require instruction in those weak or missing oral language skills before successful comprehension can be achieved. Informal assessment of morphological knowledge. Let's keep in mind that morphemes are the smallest unit of meaning, so we need to continually assess these areas. Okay, compound words. Ask the individual to break the compound word into its parts and say what each part means. Example, fireman, fire, man. Affixes. Add an affix to a known word and have the individual describe the new meaning. Example, skip to skipped. Derivations provide words that have the same base word and ask the individual how the words are related. Example, ear, earring, eardrum, earache. And pictures. Use pictures to illustrate grammatical morphemes, providing a receptive evaluation of knowledge. Ask the individual to point to the picture that illustrates the correct grammatical morpheme. Example, the boy is jumping over the fence. We need to recognize these cognitive areas play a major role in reading, so assessment and understanding how these areas would impact reading is crucial. How we look at the processing speed, rate at which an individual will scan or identify stimuli, make quick associations, make accurate decisions, and move quickly to the next item. Very important in the area of reading, as well as the working memory, which involves the capacity to hold information in immediate awareness while manipulating or transferring that information in some way. And these are hidden when you look at the students, so it's very important to assess these areas. And if it is a weakness for that student, you need to see in his reading how it is impacting the reading. Other areas we need to constantly assess and look at: decoding, encoding, reading fluency, phonics, fluency, and comprehension. Decoding, you can look at reading, word reading, real and nonsense. Encoding is the word spelling, real and nonsense. The orthographic awareness, where the student has the ability to visually recognize those patterns in spelling. Reading fluency, this includes accuracy, rate, and prosody. Oral reading, silent reading, and writing samples. Orthographic processing assessment. You can have the student write their name. Ask the student to write his or her first and last name. You'll be surprised how many students cannot hold on to the pattern of their own name. Writing the alphabet. Ask the child to write the letters of the alphabet in order. There are lots of sequencing problems when they cannot hold on to that pattern. Recognizing letters. Present written letters and ask the child to tell you the letter name. Make a page with letters that are similar in visual appearance. Example, B and D, N and U. Ask the child to name the letters and count the number of errors made. And recognizing words. Present a written sentence and ask the child to find a word, any word, and circle it. This illustrates if the child has the concept of a printed word. Extend the activity by asking the child to circle a specific word. Pattern to look for in test results to diagnose dyslexia. You want to look at the difficulty a child has in reading single words. Many of our students are very superior in comprehension, so when they don't have anything to attach the single words to, they have difficulty. Particularly difficulty decoding nonsense or unfamiliar words. The reading comprehension, as I said before, often superior to decoding individual words. There's inaccurate and labored oral reading of passages, trouble reading small function words, that, is, for, and even words like the. And there's slow reading, so it's very important to have the students read out loud so you can see the types of errors that they're making and how they are substituting or just missing those function words. You will also see in their reading that many of the students will replace words with synonyms. So they're reading along because they're using their comprehension, they're getting the meaning, but they may, just completely give you a different word, but it still makes sense in that sentence. For example, they may say, I want to go home, instead of I want to go to my house. Okay, just as an example of how they will change those words to synonyms. And then also you will see very poor spelling. So what is structured literacy. Structured literacy is simultaneous and multisensory. It's explicit, direct instruction. It's systematic and cumulative. Synthetic and analytic instruction, diagnostic teaching. It's data-driven, and teacher training is essential. So let's look at each of those areas. Simultaneous, multisensory. Teaching is done using all learning pathways in the brain: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, tactile, simultaneous, in order to enhance memory and learning. So many times students will trace a letter while saying its sound. If you're teaching them the letter name, they would trace and say the letter. Many times we have the students stand up and use their gross motor muscles to draw the letter and say the letter name or sound on the wall. Many times we use carpet, sand, things like that to help the student. And also we do a lot of kinesthetic and tactile. For example, you can have the student trace a word, then you can take a ball and throw the ball to the student while the student catches it, says the name, and spells. You go back and forth with the ball to help the student hold on to that. It's systematic and cumulative. The organization of material follows the logical order of language, follows a planned scope and sequence. It begins with the easiest and most basic elements and progresses methodically to more difficult material, progresses in measurable, manageable steps. Each new concept is based on previous learning. Concepts taught must be systematically reviewed to strengthen memory. Skills are continually reviewed, practiced, extended, and once mastered, applied to more and more difficult text. It's explicit, direct instruction. Concepts are clearly and directly explained. No assumptions are made about the student's ability to make inferences. Instruction requires the direct teaching of all concepts with continuous student-teacher interaction. It's diagnostic teaching. The teacher must be adept at prescriptive or individualized teaching. The teaching plan is based on careful and continuous assessment of the individual's needs. The content presented must be mastered to the degree of automaticity. That is, the skill can be performed with relatively little effort and attention. It's data-driven. Progress monitoring assessments are used frequently. Curriculum-based measurements are emphasized to assess progress. Guided practice is continuous and ample, and independent application is expected. It's synthetic and analytic instruction. Synthetic instruction presents the parts of the language and then teaches how the parts work together to form a whole. Example, con plus struct plus shun. The student can put that together to see construction. Analytic instruction presents the whole and teaches how this can be broken down into its component parts. Example, teacher, t, ch, and the student can hear and blend that into teacher.
Now we're going to discuss the content and what is taught in programs of structured literacy. I did want to mention that structured literacy has been called multisensory structured language instruction in the past, so you may be more familiar with the previous term MSL instruction. You can see from the list that's on the page that this is quite extensive, and that's why it's so important that teachers are trained in all of these areas. As Louisa Moat says, teaching reading is rocket science, and means that teachers need ongoing professional development in these areas. During phonology or phonological awareness instruction, students can, for example, use Elkonin boxes. And that is when Students are presented with a picture and use blocks to represent each of the sounds. So if I show the student the picture of the mug and ask them to identify the sounds in mug, they could push up one block for each sound to say w. Or in the next picture, sheep, and push up one block for each sound, sh, e. Phonological awareness activities should be linked to letters as soon as possible, and we should teach the shapes, names, and sounds of the letters to students. Sound symbol association is the knowledge of the various sounds in the English language and their correspondence to the letters and combination of letters that represent the sounds. So it's knowing that CH says ch and TCH says ch, as well as in the other direction when the student is given the sound ch, they must know that that can be represented by CH as well as TCH. So this sound symbol association must be mastered in two ways. From visual to auditory, when they're shown the letter and they create the sound, and then auditory to visual, when they're given the sound and they must write or identify the letter. Students must also master the blending of sounds and letters into words, as well as segmenting of whole words into sounds. When we blend sounds, we're focusing on reading. When we segment sounds, we're focusing on spelling and their reciprocal processes. Syllable instruction is important for word structure. And a syllable is defined as a unit of oral or written language with one vowel sound. Every syllable has to have a vowel. And there are 6 basic syllable types in the English language. Syllable division rules are directly taught in relation to word structure. We are teaching students to look at the position of a letter in a word, what are the surrounding letters, and what are the different syllable types, which will tell you what the vowel sound is. Here's a slide that shows the 6 syllable types of our English language. A closed syllable is when there is one vowel followed by a consonant. If it is closed, the vowel sound is short, such as the examples bat, will, trip, mash, bend. A vowel consonant E syllable is when there's a vowel, a consonant, and then an E. And the E jumps over the consonant to make the vowel say its name or the long sound, as in rope, safe, line. Open syllables are when there is one vowel at the end of the word or syllable, and if it is open, the vowel sound is long, as in he, go, my, flew. The consonant LE syllable is the only syllable that has to come at the end of a multisyllabic word, and that is when we have a consonant, an L, and an E. Since every syllable has to have a vowel, the E is there, but it is silent, and the consonant LE syllable sounds like a blend, like in the word middle, dl is the consonant LE syllable, or DLE, or in table, bull is the consonant LE syllable. Our controlled syllables are when we have AR, IR, OR, ER, and UR. And the sound is neither long nor short. It is controlled by the R. And the last syllable type, vowel digraphs or diphthongs. The vowel digraph is when we have 2 vowels together, like in the first examples, beat, toad, sweet. And a diphthong are the last 3 examples, where we begin with one sound and slide into another, as in saw, boil, or snow. Morphology, as we said before, is the smallest unit of meaning in a word. Therefore, morphology is the study of how morphemes are combined to form words. We must teach students about morphology. We must teach them about compound words. Airplane are really two morphemes put together. We need to teach them about the study of word origins. So we have to teach content-specific Latin and Greek roots to aid their vocabulary, such as the word bio, meaning life. And then when we read the words biography, biology, or biome, students will know that it's all related to life, since each one of those words has the root bio in it. When we talk about teaching morphemes, we're talking about teaching base words, which are words that can stand alone, roots, which are the original form from which a recorded word is derived, and prefixes and suffixes. We need to teach students things that like un meaning not, as in unhappy, or poly meaning many, as in polytheism, or the suffix ed meaning past tense, as in skipped, or the suffix full, making it an adjective like careful,